Hi everyone, I'm Danielle Byington, and in this video, we're going to be talking about more of the Miller's Tale. We're going to be talking about what I'm going to call the situationship between the three male characters and Alisoun. Our setting is happening in Oxford, England, and that's maybe important to know because it's kind of giving you a clue of if this is being told at an inn in London, we're on the edge of London, we're heading on a pilgrimage to Canterbury, England. Oxford is about 2 hours north of London, and so it's just a different vibe than London or Canterbury. And you also want to keep in mind that one of the most major universities in the world, Oxford University, that's as the name suggests there, and one of our characters is a scholar. So Nicholas is a scholar, and because he's a scholar, it even tells us he's poor. So he's renting a room from a rich churl, so a carpenter who happens to have done well, and that is John the carpenter. So these are our first two male characters. So Nicholas renting from John. Nicholas is renting to stay there in Oxford because he's a scholar, he's a student, and John is well off, at least enough in terms of the middle class that is forming at this time, like I talked about in one of the earlier videos regarding the Middle Ages, the late Middle Ages in particular, when say Chaucer's family was doing so well as wine merchants. So John, there's the other person living in the home. John has married a much younger woman. Her name is Alisoun, and so or say Alisoun. She is 18 years old, and it's not just like he's in love with her. He's not just protective of her. It tells us, and this comes up quite a few times in the story, that he's always worried about her because of the age difference and that he's jealous and held here Nara in cage. So he holds her in a narrow cage. He confines her. He doesn't let her out of his sight because she's young and wild and he's old and he's afraid that she's going to cheat on him. So, Allison, when we get a description of her, it tells us how beautiful she is, how lovely she is, but she's not necessarily like in a high class way. This first line here tells us she's like these flowers. She's as beautiful as a flower, the primrose. And she's not just so that beautiful. She's beautiful enough that a man from nobility, man, would want to sleep with her because she's so beautiful, but she's not good enough for him to marry her. She's not high class nobility. She's good enough for a gay man to wed, for a common man to wed. The other bit of details we get about Alisoun is all these animal comparisons, and that's zoomorphism. So let me put it in this perspective for you. In things like Disney movies or a lot of general animated films, children's entertainment especially, you might have a talking sidekick, some kind of animal, maybe it's some kind of talking thing that would otherwise be an inanimate object in real life. But it has features like a human and it talks, right? Okay, so that's anthropomorphism. That means we're applying human-like qualities to that thing. In zoomorphism, that's when you start applying animal-like qualities to something. And if you look at narratives that have characters with anthropomorphism, and then you look at the characters that might have zoomorphism, zoomorphism is usually not a positive thing. I mean, think of it. If someone calls you some kind of compares you to some kind of animal or something, it's often meant as a type of insult. So some of them I've listed here. It says that she has a body like a weasel, that she's gentle and small. And she also can skip like a kid or calf. So, like a baby goat or a baby cow, she can skip around like a barn animal. And same here, that so we have like a baby horse, that she's skittish like one. So these aren't, so we had all of this description before telling us here's how beautiful she is. But know that thing we just said about, well, a nobleman would sleep with her, but he wouldn't marry her. Here's all this weird animal comparison stuff. Okay, so it's not quite a love triangle. It's some kind of different shape or form. Because we have three men all somehow involved with Alisoun, but Alisoun is only seems to be really specifically interested in Nicholas. Remember, that's not her husband. Before I go further, let me say something here. Every semester, I always have a couple of students who end up complaining about this story. I don't know why, it's just a story. Um, because it has adultery in it, and I think it's inappropriate. First of all, this is college. Second, um, and to use the cliche phrase, it was a different time. Like it really was. It was 7 centuries ago. Getting to marry who you wanted, like who you were in love with, who you are in love with, rather, that's a relatively new thing in the past century or so, for the general population. So, arranged marriages are still part of some cultures, but in this case, in the Middle Ages, if you're a woman, you're not probably going to get to pick who you want to marry, no matter what class you're from, because you become the property of who you marry. You are a pawning piece. You come with a dowry that's paying a man to marry you. It's meant to often be a kind of diplomatic move for families to have a bond over territory or land, or things like that, finances. Um, so with Alisoun, remember she's married to the wealthy carpenter. Probably wasn't just because she was a gold digger. It was probably because her family made that arrangement. Maybe her family was dead and she was left with a guardian who was like, I've got to get her out of my hair. And she's good looking, and this wealthy old guy would probably take her. And so this is a win-win situation for me. Out you go, Alisoun. So it could have been a number of reasons. So, yeah, she's legally married, but this isn't like a spiritual kind of love, probably, because you don't get to pick who you marry in the Middle Ages, probably. And so, Nicholas being here, it's an opportunity for her, and he's not passive about it, right? He comes up to her while the husband is out of town, and it says he called to here be the quinta. If you change some of the vowels, the sounds of the last word I just said, you can guess what four-letter word that's supposed to be in Middle English. Some translations say he grabbed her by the crotch, he grabbed her by the haunch bones, a part of the pelvis bone. Um, but he's not threatening sexual assault per se. It's kind of weird. He's being manipulative. He says, "Oh, if you don't sleep with me, le man ispile. I will just die if I can't have your love returned to me." And at first she's like, "No, no, I can't do that." And she never quite says it's not because she doesn't want to. She says it's because my husband is very jealous. That's why I can't do it. And when she says that, he's like, "Oh, well, no worries." When he has her agreeing to do it, um, he says, "Okay, thereof care. Thereof care thee not. Don't worry about it, girl. I've got this taken care of. A clerk had latterly beset his will, but if he could, a carpenter begale. So, what's the point of me being a student if and being a scholar, studying all these things, if I'm not smart enough to outwit a carpenter? So he's being kind of arrogant about this. Um, and she's ready to go along with it. This is a good time to point out that this time, and there's going to be another time when John is out of the house, that they could have just done the deed then because he's out of town. He's not home. And this isn't like a quick 5 minute drive down the block and he's coming home with the dry cleaning. Like it's the Middle Ages. He had to take a horse and cart somewhere. It's going to take him a while to get back, probably at least the whole day, if not overnight. And he had this time, and Nicholas and Alisoun have another time before the whole flood plot thing happens, where they could have just slept together then. And they didn't. So that, if they did, then we wouldn't have this whole story of the Miller's tale that you have to read in this class. Okay, last person we need to talk about. Huh. Absolon. Um, well, he's a character. He's the parish priest, and so Alison is she's got some people like creeping into sliding into her DMs, and Absalon is another one. So she might be DTF with Nicholas, but not so much Absalon because he's even described as kind of weird. Now, what's interesting is you don't get this description about John the Carpenter, her husband, but Nicholas and Absalon, they are both provided with this rather effeminate description. And Absalon is especially like really prissy. And it even tells you at one point, like, he doesn't like vulgar things. He doesn't like vulgar jokes. Like, he doesn't like fart jokes. I'm foreshadowing here the ending if you haven't read this yet. So here we have that first scene where we see Absalom admiring Alisoun. Oh, he thinks she's so pretty. So since he's a priest, and we haven't had the Reformation yet because this is the late 1300s, so this is a Catholic practice. Um, he is swinging an incense urn. This would be something done in a Catholic church. He's incensing the space, and the wives are you are assume there's this image of them kneeling, praying, and this is part of the ceremony, and he is swinging the incense container in front of them, and as he does, he many a lovely look on them he cast. He's looking at all the wives, like checking them out, because he's not really an honest priest. And namely on this carpenter's wife. Oh yeah, he's really looking at Alisoun. Now, something else to say here before I go into the troubadours. This whole thing of like, wow, this is an insult to religious people. It's really not. This would have been a pretty common fact. I mean, we know it's still a common fact. Like, just because someone goes to church doesn't mean that they're an honest, kind person, right? Well, remember in one of the earlier videos, I talked about your three main social classes here were nobility, people of the church, and then everybody else, the commoners. And so you might not have, especially if you're a male, like you can't just be married off and stay at home and raise the kids. You have to have a job if you didn't come from money that was already there waiting on you when you were born. Um, one of your options might have been if you're just running out of luck, law school didn't work out, other things didn't work out, join the church so you have a roof over your head. So that maybe that's how Absalom ended up here. Or maybe he lost his faith over time. Anyhow, going on to what he's going to do. So he's so in love. Oops. He's so in love with Alisoun that even though he's a priest and even though he knows she's married, he goes to their house and right outside the bedroom window, uh, he undressed him up by a shut window. By a shut window, a window encasement there by the carpenter's house, by the carpenter's wall, the bedroom wall. So he's at the bedroom window and he's singing. So you've seen this done in modern entertainment. Maybe someone's done it to you. They threw rocks at your window and they were out there singing a song, playing their guitar. I hope it wasn't creepy, but you've seen it in movies. The movies Say Anything. He's not playing a guitar, but he's holding the boombox, playing music. So you've seen some concept of this before, probably. This is the tradition of a troubadour. And troubadours are also kind of part of that idea of chivalry, meaning the emotional affair, it's not a physical affair, an emotional love affair. It's one of honor. So we're not taking the maiden's maidenhood, so she's still a respectable lady. Um, this is all about it's in the mind expressing, so that's why it's a song. It's the only way he can best express his emotions because she's married and he's a priest. He can't actually sleep with her as much as he would really like to. And you're even going to see he's going to go on and try to beg her for a kiss. Okay. That's it for this video. Please watch the next video for the next part of the Miller's Tale, where we're going to build the flood plot and see that executed. Okay, thank you for watching.